Vaidyanathan is out on the road for us, visiting different constituencies in and around the area. And right now she is in a cafe in Lee. Regina, can we see you? Now, first of all, before we get into politics, have you had a full English yet?
I haven't yet, but I've got a BBC branded election mug, so I'm right on message here. And we're going to be travelling around the country having a cup of tea or coffee, and a bit of a cliche, but that's the best way to find out what people are thinking, over a cup of tea or coffee.
Regina, tell me a little bit now about what the big issues are where you are.
Well, let's have a chat with some people here. So yesterday I was at the debate in Salford and I was talking to the politicians. But really, what matters is how their message in that debate last night translates to voters. And we're in the constituency of Lee and Atherton. It was for many years a very safe Labour seat, which switched hands in 2019 to the Conservatives. It's part of the so-called Red Wall, which the Labour Party is hoping to win back in a few weeks' time. Well, this cafe opened in the early 60s. Back then, Harold Macmillan was Prime Minister. We've had quite a few Prime Ministers since then. Well, Linda Collier, you own this cafe.
Yes.
It's very nice to be here. It's called the Coffee Bar, isn't it?
It certainly is.
So, Linda, tell me what you thought of the debate last night, because I know you watched it.
I did watch the debate last night. I don't really find them a very good thing to be Americanised and all the shouting that they do at each other. There was about 5 or 6 points that they were speaking about. It's not very clear what anybody's actually going to do. It's really not. I mean, towns like this, we're all run down now. We've lost our industry. The times have changed. We can't go back in time.
Who do you think performed the best of the two? I mean, you are a Labour voter, aren't you, traditionally?
Yes. Well, I must admit, I mean, the quietest one, which isn't always the best thing to do because people don't hear the quiet person, was Keir Starmer.
Do you think that confirms your vote for him after last night?
Oh, I'll vote for Keir Starmer.
Let's bring Maurice in for a second, because Maurice, you're a Conservative voter.
That's correct, yeah.
You didn't actually watch last night, so it's important to talk to you because, you know, in the media we talk a lot about how everybody's hooked on the debate. Why didn't you watch it, though?
I had other plans last night. I did watch some of the highlights online this morning. And I think with what Linda said about Keir Starmer being quiet is actually his plan. That the less he says, the less people can hold it against him. Where the one who had a lot to say was Rishi, who seemed to have plans for where the country's going. Whereas Keir Starmer seems to think, if I say nothing, then I won't offend anybody, and I don't want to have to uphold any promises.
So you're a Conservative, and you're going to vote Conservative again this time, are you?
I think that we've been through a very difficult period. With Brexit, with COVID, and with what's gone on in Ukraine, and it's not all been handled very well by the predecessor from Rishi, but I think he's starting to get a grip of it. I do think that we need some fresh blood in Westminster, but not necessarily a fresh party.
So, who are you going to vote for then?
Probably for Conservatives.
Okay, before we came on air though, you said you were toying with the idea of voting for reform.
That's correct, yes. Simply because I was in favour of Brexit, and I think that reform is representative of the ground level of working class voters from working class northern towns, who we are.
Linda, do you think that Labour's the party for working class voters because you're going to vote for them?
Well, yes, I do actually. I mean, we don't actually have a class system as it was. I don't think people call themselves lower class, working class, middle class anymore. I think that's a thing of the past. But you've got well-off people, you've got comfortable people, and you've got people that come to work. Like, I mean, me and my husband, 6 days a week. You know, like we have to work. We have to, but then you've got to. We couldn't say that we were anything other than Labour voters. We have to.
And just very briefly, just before we go back to the studio, I want to ask you both what the top issue is for you in this campaign. What matters to you most?
I want some law and order back. We need some police on the streets.
So it's crime.
It's crime. It is crime. And you cannot say anything else. We've got it was the divisional headquarters just round the corner from us here, which is all closed up now. There's a telephone on the front of the building. If you're in trouble, you put the phone up and it puts you through to Manchester. We're 12 miles at least away from Manchester, where before you've got policemen on the street. There's no police.
Bobby's on the beat for you then, Linda.
Bobby's
what
on
about
the beat
you,
for
Morris?
sure.
Because, you know, we hear a lot about the issues that matter, but what are you going to be thinking about the most?
Certainly crime, as Linda said. Dealing with not so much immigration, but illegal immigration. I saw Nigel Farage on TV the other day talking about Turkish barbershops. In Turkish barbershops, we have maybe sort of 6 or 7 in a town like Lee.
What's wrong with that though, Morris?
Well,
more choices to where you get your hair cut.
Yeah, but we didn't need that before.
The busy shops.
Yeah, we didn't need 7 Turkish barbershops before. We needed 3 or 4. So what are they all doing in town? You know, they are. Has our hair grown quicker since COVID? Or I think that's what he said.
I don't know. Do you need a haircut yet? Anyway,
perhaps I do. Yeah.
on that note, Morris, Linda, thank you very much for sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
It's always important, of course, to get the views of the voters, and this is a very key seat. As we were saying, it's part of that red wall. Mariam, in the next hour, I'll be with Kevin Fitzpatrick, who you can see sitting next to me here. Say hi, Kevin. Kevin's from Radio Manchester, so he's been travelling the length and breadth of this red wall, as it's known, finding out what people think. We'll have more throughout the course of the day.
Regina, thank you very much.